What's also very important for a corporate affairs person is that you need to be proactive. We can say this, but if the corporate affairs person just thinks, oh, it's only when issues happen, that's when I'll actually come on board to profess solution. That's a minus to your side. And what that means is that you need to look out for ways that this organization, understand the organization very well, look at their chains of businesses, their lines of duty, and look at, okay, how can you support them across the different functions and across the different facets.
Every successful brand has a story. And behind that success story are conversations that most people do not get to hear. Sometimes in an organization, marketing team wants to push bold ideas. Corporate communications wants to do things without attracting risk. Public affairs wants to build trust with government stakeholders. But in the midst of all of this conversation, the question is, who really owns the brand? Or who really gets to win this conversation? Sometimes goals align, sometimes a message really does not. But in the midst of this, what is balance? And this is what you're about to find out on this episode of Coffee and Comms. And so before we delve into the conversation proper, let's go on this quick short break as we take you through what Soldier Communications is about and who we are and the value we tend to offer you. And of course, aside from this Coffee and Comms conversation we have, do stay tuned. And where you see Soldier Communications, do well to get in touch for the business that you would love to do with us, because we're always ready to support you on your journey of communications and, of course, in helping your business grow and managing your reputation ultimately. All right, good to have you back. This is yet another exciting episode of the Coffee and Comms podcast, a very interesting one, I must say. And the guest on today's program is someone who has seen it all and done it all. It sort of have a 360 experience when it comes to communication, from digital marketing to corporate communications to production to business development and corporate affairs proper. You want to know the guest? Okay, so he is the head of corporate affairs, GB Foods Nigeria, and is no other person than TOKUNBO, ADERIBIGBE. Welcome, TOKUNBO.
Wow, thanks for having me.
I was really looking forward to this conversation because I know that the tea we want to spill on this episode, you are best suited, to share all the behind the scenes stories and help the world to better understand and situate the world of communication, particularly when people with roles that are not exactly similar, but they intertwine, the sort of world that happens inside that nobody gets to see. And so those are some of the questions we will be having here.
Sure. Okay.
So are you ready?
Give it on.
All right. So of course, I've shared the topic earlier. It's the tough war nobody talks about. How marketing, comms representative, and everyone in that gamut, juggles to decide on who exactly owns the brand. So I'll start off with this question. So, I found it very interesting, right? From the outside, the company looks all put together. Everybody likes the brand. The campaign is looking great. And it looks like everything runs on autopilot. But when you imagine things are always not the case. Marketing has its priorities, corporate comms have what the targets and what the goals look like. And so in your experience, what does that tension, or when does that tension actually show up in terms of balancing what perspective the marketing team has, the corporate communication team have, and the corporate affairs bit have in terms of what looks like success to the brand or the organization?
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity once again. I always tell people that most often than not, you get to see that tension from time to time. And the tension is as a result of people having a lopsided understanding of what the business growth actually looks like for an organization. But I ask myself and say that across all functions, we're actually looking out for the same thing for a business, from a facilities person to a marketing person and even a corporate affairs person in this light. We all want the same thing. However, the issue that plays in here is the fact that we have like a different understanding of what success looks like. So look at it, think about it from this angle, that while marketing is looking at driving market share, while marketing is looking at optimizing the business for commercial success, corporate comes on its own hand as well, is also looking out for the business success, but it's just from a different perspective. And what's is important for corporate affairs in this light is the fact that we need to get success, we need to gain success, we need to drive success that is risk guarded. We're not trying to compete.
Like a power tussle.
Like a power tussle of some sort. No, that's not what we're actually doing. But what we are doing is to ensure that the business actually grows, and beyond just growing, you want a sustainable growth for the business. You really don't want it to be the next campaign and you're flying here and there, and the next week one of these government agencies come to tell you that, oh, why didn't you notify us about your campaign, or them fining you because something actually went wrong. That's growth in its sense, but that's a growth that is not sustainable. But what you're looking out for is now a sustainable growth that okay, everybody's happy and they're telling you that okay, we did this in the right way. That's very important. So I think that's where the we need to draw the line and ensure that there's some sort of balance between growth from a marketing perspective or growth from a sustainable perspective.
Amazing. All right. So you sort of answered my second question, because the way you described your response in the first instance, it looks perfect. It looks straightforward. But I'm painting a scenario now, when the room, the marketing team has developed this nice idea. In fact, they've run it by the CEO and he loves it. The campaign looks great, and they believe that the market will embrace it. And somebody from corporate comms comes to say, well, this is good. The brand is at risk. Our reputation is at risk with this idea. And they could swear that this idea is perfect. So in that room, who wins the argument?
Who wins the argument? I think first and foremost is the fact that we just need to understand. I touched on it in my first point that, again, we are not in this conversation on who wins or not. That mindset, we need to have like some sort of paradigm shift to say we're actually pushing towards a singular objective. So if the corporate affairs person is coming on board to tell you that, oh, we need to have a rethink about this. I always tell people that it's good to, would I say, envision a crisis than having to go into that crisis. Because a crisis that is actually envisioned, what it means is that we really have to rethink that idea to see which is actually the most practical way to operationalize that particular idea we're talking about, than it's been a risk. And risk in the sense that if that product, if that campaign hits the market and the company has been fined as a result of one of the things the corporate affairs person has identified or highlighted, it will no longer be a case of who wins or not. It will be a case of, oh, we came in with a not well thought of idea. So what I try to say is that it's important that you know, okay, what's the goal of this is. And the corporate affairs person also needs to explain to them. Sometimes I think there's always an issue with the corporate affairs person as well. Maybe you're coming into that argument from a place of, oh, you have to do things my way. No, it doesn't happen that way. You have to come up with different scenarios to explain it, to tell them that if this goes this way, if it doesn't go this way, what is going to happen to the business? So as much as possible, explain to them. And I'd like to also mention that again, as a corporate affairs person, you need to also understand that there are different campaigns for different seasons. There are some campaigns that they are, would I say, primarily marketing focused and marketing based. Again, there will be more considerations for the marketing practice ahead of a corporate affairs practice. So say for example, there's a launch that is coming up, and even if the corporate affairs person is being brought in way into close by to the launch of that product, you should understand that that time is no longer you having to stop the launch at that particular time. However, what you can just do is that what are the quick, easy things that we can do for this launch to happen? So what I'm trying to say is that there's more consideration for the marketing angle at that point in time. The same way that you also have different times and lives of an organization where there's more consideration for a corporate affairs function when a decision is being taken. So say, for example, you're welcoming a key government functionary to your facility. At that point, it's no longer a marketing consideration. You are now looking at building trust. You're looking at engendering trust. You're looking at deepening trust. So that is now a corporate affairs focused initiative. So again, those considerations are very important. At that point in time now, marketing just takes little back seats in that time. So it's always important to have an understanding of the different times and seasons of an organizational life, and then when different things need to be activated. But more importantly, the onus is still on the CEO to make that call to say, okay, you've given me your advice, you've given me your advice as well. Which of them should we proceed with? Because really, the CEO is still the owner of the P&L, is the one that owns the profit and loss, and will be able to say, okay, you've told us your there are some things we can't do away with. So that's the way I tend to look at all of that overlaps that come. And these overlaps would usually come. You would always have it from time to time, because it's just a case of our system right here in Nigeria here is so unpredictable. Right now, you can have a commissioner, a minister sitting atop an agency. In less than how many months, you can have like a change in leadership. That means that the new person coming on board might just bring in new set of rules and new set of laws. So again, it all boils down to the fact that organizations need to be aware of that fluidity that would actually come in place marketing function against the corporate affairs function.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This is so rich and very vast. So one thing I'm picking is you're speaking to synergy, collaboration, and ensuring that you're documenting this process so that you always come back to it. Now, I actually want to challenge something, and you spoke around it when you were responding to the question. In terms of how CEOs see their corporate communications, professional or corporate affairs, do you think that they are beginning to see them as parts of people who contribute to business growth? Or, you know, when there's a crisis, oh, call me the communications person, come and chase this away or take this away from me, you know. And it feels like it's dumped on the lap of the comms person to make it go away. Do you think that this sort of way that they see it, is it still persisting, or you think there seems to be a change?
I think that's a very good question. And the first thing I'll just say in that regard is this particular issue stems from an historical precedence, and that's why, because corporate affairs people have always been regarded as risk managers of the organization. When something goes wrong, that's when you bring them on board. However, more CEOs right now understand that we can't afford to leave the corporate affairs function as a risk manager. And in a case whereby a corporate affairs person is still playing as the risk manager, it's also important to know, there's this popular adage that says power isn't served a la carte. So a corporate affairs person as well, a corporate affairs professional, you need to also show value to your principal. What's also very important for a corporate affairs person is that you need to be proactive. We can say this, but if the corporate affairs person just thinks, oh, it's only when issues happen, that's when I'll actually come on board to prefer solution. That's a minus to your side. And what that means is that you need to look out for ways that this organization, understand your organization very well, look at their chains of businesses, their lines of duty, and look at, okay, how can you support them across the different functions and across the different facets. And it's also important to note that collaboration is also very important. And then collaboration right now, I'm talking about the different bodies that exist.
Amazing. So what I hear you saying in a nutshell is professionals need to show workings.
Absolutely.
And once you do that, you begin to earn the respect of your CEO. So it's not, and one very wonderful one I want to pick is power is not served à la carte.
Yeah, you need to
focus on that phrase. All right, thank you so much. The conversation keeps getting interesting. Before we delve into more questions, I'll be trained to my amazing guest on the show. Stay with us as we go on this quick short break, and we will be right back with more valuable and interesting conversation for you. Thank you. Thanks for staying the course. I still have my guest, TOKUNBO ADERIBIGBE, the head of corporate affairs, GB Foods, Nigeria. Now, I'd like to continue the conversation painting this picture. Now, let's assume or imagine it's Tuesday morning and there is a video making the rounds. It was seen online, and in an hour, blogs have started sharing, journalists are calling, and the news is that one of your products is unsafe. What happens within that space? Who does what happens? What statements do you throw out to manage that scenario, especially because you are in a space where one information can change the perception and the views of people about the brand. So what happens behind the scene? Who calls the shots and who takes the decision, and what is said to the public and what is left internally within the organization?
Okay. So as you rightly said, so first and foremost, if we've done like an internal meeting to understand that, oh, this is where things actually went wrong, then we now have to go as far as having to, number one, mitigate and pause that particular brand from getting into the market further. In that case, that's the first thing that you need to do. Then as a result of that, try and recall the shopping mall that you've actually sold to, or different shopping malls that you sold to. That's very important that you make that recall. Then as a result of that, you now come up with a statement. You come up with, things that would actually give them that comfort that, this is actually a one-off. And that's why I always tell people that marketing most times, or other departments in the organization, theirs is commercial outcomes. Theirs is about market share. But corporate affairs now is about trust. So in a case whereby we've not had this issue before, it's always very easy for you to be able to let people know that this is just a one-off. But it now becomes difficult if there's a recurring issue. And that's why everybody in the organization needs to come to that center table before we take any decision.
All right. Tokunbo, you've been fantastic on the program. And this question actually leans more on the experience you've gathered over the years, having gotten cross-cutting experience across board. So in terms of how you've been doing the work you do, what is that one line that you feel like a corporate communications person should not cross, regardless of the pressure from marketing or from top leadership on doing something, what is that don't do it to any corporate or communications professional in the line of executing their work?
Okay. One line we shouldn't cross. Very important that in this line of activities that you actually have it in mind that integrity is a no-brainer for you. It's something that you have to ensure that is at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the task that you're actually doing. And again, you say, oh, but everybody talks about integrity. Why is this very important now? But why it's important is because you're going to be dealing with a lot of stakeholders. You're going to be dealing with the government. You're going to be dealing with the regulators. And it's important that your yes is your yes. So integrity from your engagement with government, integrity from your engagement with your own stakeholders as well. So that's important because what helps with is that it helps build certain level of trust for you. And trust because it's all about a relationship. You really want a situation whereby you call somebody tomorrow, they'll be able to pick up your call to help you to resolve issues because you've given them your word here, and that your word is what you're going to give them back. So that's very important. And for this role, you can't afford to diminish your integrity back.
Amazing,
so
amazing,
that's very important.
Amazing. So just one last question before I let you go is that you do your work so seamlessly, and I'm like, does it come with birth, or it's just like you grow into becoming this good? So for those who are just starting off and they look forward to becoming a guru in corporate affairs, looking that you're even heading the division for an FMCG, how can one learn the ropes to become good at the job when it comes to this sort of work?
I always tell people that there are 3 C's that form my belief system as a human being, and those 3 C's are having content, having a good character, as well as having a good clout. And as I rightly said, just to buttress what I said about integrity, character is very important. But more importantly is the fact as well that I've also stood on shoulders of giants as well. In my current role, I have a boss that has given me the necessary support, and it's in the person of Vincent Egbe. He's been able to guide me. He's been able to tell me, teach me how these things are done, and also I've been able to give him feedback on what I've done, and he's been able to also help me to, okay, these are the things you need to do better and the rest. And I always tell people, you try as much as possible to have those quick check-ins with your principal, because that's really the way you can actually build trust.
So just before I let you go, it just occurred to me that we're in a very particular season. The elections around the corner. So if you were going to share a playbook to politicians who will be headed to the polls at this time, what would that counsel be for them?
Okay, a playbook. Would they pay me for it? Okay, because of you, I'm going to share that playbook. So for politicians that will be heading to the election season, first and foremost, it's important to note that having to get Nigeria to where exactly we want to get to, we need all hands on deck. And all hands on deck means that from the politician to the different stakeholders, you need to understand that there's a lot that is actually required of you. But at the same time, you don't need to make it a do or die affair. And then why this is important is that we've seen politicians come and go. We've seen directors come and go. However, the office is going to remain there. So again, you just need to understand that in as much as you want to contribute your quota to the development of the country, in as much as you want to do this to the development of the country, it's not a do or die affair. So when you have that at the back of your mind, you see that a lot of things will actually work very well. And I always point to one of them, a very good politician that I hold in high esteem, and that's in the person of Babatunde Raji Fashola. In the last few months, I was at the court case, and I still saw him being the one to come and take up a court case. That's to tell you that even after his position as chief of staff, governor, minister, that's a 24 years. is still going to the court. And that's why it's important that as politicians, as public practitioners, we need to understand that politics in itself, holding elective position, is not the end game. It's only one of the ways through which we can actually impact people. In developed climes, you see the likes of Obama having a school of policy. You see the likes of Clinton having a school of policy where they still discuss, they still sell out their books, they still engage people. So that's the mindset that our own politicians should also have. And as much as possible, I think another thing that I still find very discerning about the kind of structure that we run is that our structure is too loaded with, it's quite powerful, and I think is as a result of the Americans that we actually take a cue from. But beyond that, we have a lot of money. It's so money focused, it's so monetary based, and it is to a large extent we need to also reduce the dependency on cash and money. That's when we can actually now appoint people that will get us the best out of the best. So that's very important. And last but not the least, voter apathy is in its highest right now. You see that people don't want to vote. People tell you that, oh, why do I want to stand and queue and the rest? But it's something that is so participatory. There's a place for government stakeholders to play their own part. There's also a place for the citizenry to play their own part and make sure that they're asking questions and put the government stakeholders on their toes.
Thank you so much. This has been a fantastic conversation, and thanks for sharing from the wealth of your knowledge. And I believe that goes for our audience who have stayed the course from the very beginning. It's important that you don't just listen, but make good use of all the valuable knowledge you're getting from conversations like this. Like, I'm sure if you were to pay, how much would you charge for all of this? Is you? We're running
$9.
dollars, I know, right? But thank you so much, Tokunbo, for your time and for sharing from your wealth of knowledge.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. It's a privilege to be here as well.
Thank you. And to everyone who has watched, who has stayed the course, here is a question I'd like to leave you with. When it comes to protecting the reputation of an organization, who should really take the lead? Or who should be solely responsible? The corporate communications expert, the leadership? Let's know what you think in the comment section, because really would love to hear from you. And of course, if you found value, do well to like, subscribe, and share. Till I come your way on the next episode of Coffee and Comms podcast, my name still remains OMOTAYO. OKEWUNMI. Thanks for watching.